Hi, and welcome to Marketing Your Veterinary Practice during the COVID-19 crisis. This is the first of two parts. I am Mike Pownall. I'll be joined on part two by Daniel McDonald and a little bit of part one and part two of Alyssa Rubenstein. Both work with Oculus and our marketing departments. So, one of the things people have asked is, wow, it's COVID. We're all worried about cash flow. There's not a lot of money going around. Should we be marketing? And absolutely, our philosophy is absolutely marketing is essential. And in fact, there's been a lot of research that companies that go into a recession and maintain or actually increase their marketing actually have a better effect from their marketing efforts and come out of the recession or the time of stress even in a stronger position. So a couple of reasons why. One is that most of your competitors have actually stopped marketing. So if you're out there and you're doing Facebook ads or Google ads or what have you, or doing a lot on Facebook, well, you're the only one in your neck of the woods doing it. And so right away, you have a bigger share of the voice or the bigger share of what people are saying in your local veterinary market. And the other reason is that the ads, to buy digital ads or to boost a Facebook post or buy an Instagram ads are a lot cheaper now because people have stopped marketing. So this absolutely is a great opportunity for you and your business to, maintain your marketing, or even if you can afford it, accelerate it to help position yourself to be in a better place once this pandemic is over. Before we go too far, we got to define what is marketing, and there's a couple of things we can say. Number one, Peter Drucker, famous writer about business, probably one of the great business thought leaders of the 20th century, thinks that marketing is so basic that it cannot be considered a separate function from anything else. It is a whole business seen from the point of view of the final result, that is, from the customer's point of view. So really what marketing is trying to do is thinking all about the customers and what they want and what we can offer them. The American Marketing Association calls marketing an organizational function and a set of processes for creating, communicating, and delivering value to customers. And we want to manage those customers' relations in a way that benefit both the organization and the people involved in the organization. So again, it really comes down to what do customers value and what can we do in our business to offer superior value? And so that's what we're going to be looking at these two webinars. So there's a framework that we want to work with. And in this episode, we're going to look at the ones in blue. We're going to look at analysis, what the value proposition is, and our brand. And then in our next webinar, we're going to look at how to execute, how to actually apply it, and then how to measure what we're doing to see if it's working out, to see if we're getting the return, to see if we're meeting the goals that we want. So first of all, we need to do an analysis. When we go into doing a surgery, any kind of surgery, we have a plan in place. We've looked at the animal, we know the condition, we want to make sure we know that it's stable enough to go to surgery. If it's a neuter, we've made sure that there are 2 testicles. There's a lot of planning that goes into a surgery. And the same thing goes in for marketing. So what we're going to be looking at, number one, is our customers. We already talked about marketing is, creating and delivering and communicating value to customers. So we want to know what they value, how they perceive the brand, how our business is perceived in their mind. What different type of customer segments do we have? Cat owners are different from dog owners, and dog owners are different from dog breeders. And many of us have different types of customers, and we have to recognize what each one of those values and what we can offer that they would really appreciate. And then we're going to look at customer journeys in terms of the whole scope of how they hear about a business, how they interact with the business, the impression that they are left with the business after doing, coming in, bringing their pet into you. So we'll talk about that. We're going to look at competition, because one of the things we want to make sure we're offering is something that's different from another vet practice. We want to make sure when people look at our vet practice, they go, I use XYZ vet practice because they offer this. And that's something that is so special that the clients really value, that they can't get from other practices. We're going to look at the skills of the company. Who do we have to be able to help us with marketing? Do we have people that can actually write good posts? People that have the skill set to maybe edit a little video? skill set to create digital ads? Are there people that we can work with, other groups in our organization, associations, things that we can leverage off of their network or their user base that can increase the awareness of what we do? Within my own vet practice, years ago, I did a video with a local journal, local magazine, and that video is still the most popular video we have ever recorded. That's about 10 years ago. Mainly not because it's me or the subject matter, but we were able to leverage the promotion, the network that magazine created that brought in far more viewers than we were able to do on our own. And finally, we have to look at our environment. You know, these are COVID-19 times. Things are changing all the time. We're most likely in a big recession. We're not sure how long the recession is going to last. And so we know that our customers, you know, there's two things going on. A, they're spending more time with their pets because they're home more. And so they're probably noticing more things about them. And so these things may mean a trip to the vets. But on the flip side, well, many of us are in lockdown, or we're doing curbside medicine, or the economy has been impacted so much that people don't necessarily have the money to spend on an animal. So these are all factors that we have to consider, and everything is going to be different from everybody's own environment. So when we talk about the value proposition, it's really, one of the more difficult things to explain, yet the title seems so simple. You know, what is the value that I'm proposing to offer? What is the proposition of value that a customer looks at your business and goes, ah, I use them. You're going to hear me say this over and over again. The reason why I use XYZ vet practice is because of this. And this is that value proposition. It really considers the customers and seeks what makes the business unique from the competitors. Why are they choosing you over to the practice down the street, you know, in the neighborhood, per se? It presents a clear position of the brand and the service to the customers. So the customers know when they think of your practice, this is why I use them. This is what makes them special. It answers the why of why they use them. You know, we all, you know, what we do, we all offer veterinary medicine. How we do it, you know, nothing really is that different. You know, most of us do spays very similarly. Now, some of us maybe add more to it, you know, more pre-op workup, anesthetics, pain management than some other practices. And that becomes part of your value proposition. But mainly, it really is that, you know, are you that practice that is just offering the best care, the best customer service, or are you just in and out? You know, your only position is that you live on a busy street that people have to drive by to go to work. And that's a value proposition too. And so we'll explore these as we go along. And then what we really want to know is, you know, what functional or emotional needs can we uniquely fill for our customers? As I said, all pet owners are differently. If you look at a value proposition from a Walmart to a Nordstrom's to a, you know, a cheap price store that has a lot to a very expensive store, very personalized service, you know, much more expensive clothing. You know, trying to think that we're the same for every customer, that's impossible. So we have to select the customers we want, and that sort of mirrors the value proposition. If you're talking about high-end, high diagnostics, you know, great customer service, your price point is probably going to be much higher than the, you know, a spay neuter clinic, for example. And then what we're also trying to do, what pain points can we eliminate? A great example of this would be, you know, a value proposition to be like a feline mobile practice that comes to the house. As a cat owner, we all know how frustrating it is and how stressful it is to bring a cat to a clinic. And it's a practice, it's just a mixed practice, and you're bringing your cat in the carrier and there's dogs there and noises. It totally freaks out the cats. We're thinking, oh boy, do I really want to go through that with my cat? Maybe not. But, oh wow. Either if you had a cat-friendly, so there's a separate cat-friendly practice where there's a separate entrance for cats. It was quieter, there's nice pheromones going in the air, so it's a much more great environment. Or you have that mobile practice that comes to the house and takes care of the cats there, or you do telemedicine for the same reason. You know, those are the pain points that you're eliminating, and those things become very valuable. So here's a little bit of a chart. And when you look at the left on the x-axis, that's called upstream. And upstream is a business term, upstream, downstream. Upstream is where everything originates. And so that's where we got our veterinary education. That's where we have our building. That's where we bought our equipment. That's where we hired the right people. It's everything that's prepared to offer a service, the veterinary service. Whereas downstream is more of the client interface. That's where we actually perform our medicine or do our medicine. And that's usually with the pet and their owner. And that's the downstream, that's the customer experience. And that's what we need to be focusing on as vets, is down in this area. The higher you go up the y-axis, the more value people get. We as vets, we're often very fixated on the middle aspect over here, the upstream. We're very proud of our education. We're proud of our equipment. And, you know, really, if we want to be honest with ourselves, in the eyes of most of our customers, vets are pretty well the same. They consider us having the same education, we have the same equipment, we do the same thing. So what we really need to do is focusing on what's valuable and focusing on this area and this upper quadrant of what can we offer that makes it such a great customer experience, or we offer what our customers in our area really value. You know, I'll give you an example. I had a sort of hide the name, but every once in a while, I like to go on sites when I'm looking at other websites, or when I'm working in front of our clients, I'll look at the websites of their competitors. And so often they love to show a picture of the building as if that's the reason why somebody comes to their practice. No. Or they have things like care and comfort for pets and people. Well, that's an obvious thing. That just gets you opening the door. That allows you to compete as a vet. Unless you're going to be an evil vet, care and comfort is what we do. So that's not really distinguishing us. That's not really a great value proposition that's going to distinguish you from other people. So let me give you an example. So products and services, when we start looking at what we are offering people, what we sell, we want to ask what it is, what it does, what customers does it serve though? And this is where some things, what you do for one person may be totally different from another. And what does it mean for those customers? So here's a great example. Here's a product called QuickView. It's a one-step pregnancy test started by this company called Cadell. So what they have is, it's a self-administered pregnancy test. What it does, accurate indicator of pregnancy, easy to use, no hassle. Wonderful. But value and customers is really different, because what they said is that for people that are taking a pregnancy test, there are two types of people. There are the fearfuls, they're concerned they're pregnant, and then there are the hopefuls. So the fearfuls have anxiety, they're worried about privacy, whereas the hopefuls are joy, and it's going to be a celebration. They're telling everyone. Two different customers, two different things of what they're going to value. So this is what they did, is that they created two brands. They tried a Rapid View and Conceive. And the Rapid View is geared towards the fearfuls. It has a mauve background, no babies, it's situated near condoms, and it sells for $6.99. Whereas for the hopefuls, they have a product called Conceive. The exact same product, but it's got a pink background, smiling baby. It's near the other ovulation testing kits, and it's $3 more expensive, $9.99. So, when people are hopeful, their sort of thoughts, well, they'll pay a little bit more. And so for the same product, and they had identified two market segments of two different value propositions, and they created products to service each of those. So I find this a fascinating story. So what I would think of you to do, and you don't have to do this now, of course, but after this is over, pick a popular service you offer and pick two client types and think of how the service can be perceived by both. Should it be presented the same to both? Should it be priced the same to both? All we have to sell is time. And if you have one client type that takes a lot more time for you to do that service or to explain the service, maybe you have to charge more, as opposed to a client where you go in, it's out, it's more of a transactional, there's less time that you have to spend. And maybe that is, that's your regular price, but something that's more time consuming, you charge more. Something to think about and consider in your own business. So when we talk about customer segments, they're groups of customers with similar needs, uses, and buying patterns, but what we can do is that we can target them. And this is Daniel will get into in our next webinar, how you can get very focused ads for specific types of clients. You may want to just promote, as I said, let's use dog or cat clients. You may really want to be promoting heartworm care. And so let's find and let's target our canine owners, and let's go at that. And it'll create, we can create our own marketing strategies with that. So we're going to look at all of these groups. We're going to look at gender, age, employment. We're looking at all of that. Income, we sort of estimate. There's a lot of things you can use by, some of our government statistic sites. You can look at the average wage of a postal or a zip code in your area, so you can sort of have a better idea of, what kind of spending power do these people have. How they look for information, how they make purchase decisions. And so by doing great market segmentation, it really helps us understand our customers better, understands their needs, what goes into their decision process, what's their buying criteria, how they search for information, how they respond to word of mouth. It just really helps us find all these opportunities for these people, certain people. It identifies targets for time of year, specific seasons, specific services, and it's a focus for our strategy and our action plans. And so what we like to do is create a profile for a type of person, so maybe it's a dog, that middle-aged dog owner, or the stereotypical cat person. We sort of make little names, and so we can sort of talk about our target is Sally Cat Lady. That's sort of a bit of a joke, but it allows us to have a common language inside in terms of identifying the different types of clients that we have. And it really gives us an insight into their world, and it makes us our how-to guide. When we balance it off at what Daniel's going to talk about next week about, measuring and doing your ads, it helps us identify then, have we accurately described our customer? Are what we doing based on our knowledge about them, is it going to give us the results we want? So that's something to look forward to next week. So you can see this in the presentation. When you review this later, you can break it down, in terms of the name, what their background is, some of the key characteristics, what are their goals, or what are their pain points we're trying to alleviate, or some of those wants that they have. What are their frustrations when they're trying to solve their problem? How does they access websites? Those are all really important things when we're trying to understand people. So when we create profiles, love to do it because it allows us to make content that's going to resonate with them. You can have high-level content that's good for everybody, but then we can have very specific, targeted content for a really specific audience. I know one practice that we work with does a lot of reproduction work. So of course, they're going to really want to focus towards those clients that want reproduction, as opposed to the clients that have mature dogs that you want to bring them in for routine dentistry. Two different types of clients. You want to have smarter spending. If you're going to be buying digital ads, you're going to target your customers where they are. You're going to be able to engage your customers more quickly, so it's a better spend of your money. It develops loyalty because we sort of reflect ourselves through their eyes and how they start talking about it. If we can identify how they share good news, nothing's a better recommendation than somebody posting on their own site, hey, I went to XYZ vet practice, had the best service, they really understood me, they understood what I wanted, I'll go back to them all the time. That's what we're trying to understand these people. And that's why we have them with being ambassadors to our business. And so what we can also do then is really make strategic business and marketing decisions. As I said before, do we price differently? Do we have different promotions? Do we go to different events to promote ourselves? Any new kinds of programs? If we have an area where we have puppies, we have new puppy classes or new kitten sessions or what have you. So these are all things that, because we understand our customers, we realize what opportunities there are for us to offer more healthcare services to them. We talked before about the buyer's journey, and it's basically the process that buyers go through to become aware of, evaluate, purchase, remain loyal, and then become that ambassador to the company. So this is sort of an idea of it, there's 5 steps where somebody becomes aware, whether they see a Facebook ad read a post, a friend's recommendation. Well, then they're going to consider you. They're going to look at maybe your Facebook page, your website. Maybe they'll talk to some other people, look for testimonials on Facebook or on Google. All right, they'll make the decision, they'll come for a service, but whether they come back or not is how well they were treated, how the atmosphere of the clinic was, how everybody treated them, was the pricing fair, was the medical records great, the whole process amazing. And then we keep them on board by having them on a mailing list. We're able to send them an email every couple of months, letting them know some of the new things that we're doing. And hopefully, by being online, they'll start advocating for us, being our ambassador, talking about what a great practice. So, and then that attracts that next person who's going through this, just beginning of the awareness process. So we see that it's a very, very, it's just a cycle that carries on and on and on. So when we want to understand our customers, we really need to set aside our own assumptions about the world to gain insight into them and their needs. Instead of thinking that we know about it, we need to ask them. We need to sort of, this is why surveys are so helpful. We talk a lot about at Oculus Net Promoter Score surveys where people are rate you from 1 to 10 on how much how likely they are to recommend you. And the Net Promoter Score survey is a very popular survey used in a lot of industries. It gives you a very quantifiable measurement. And the comments that people leave really helps us understand what we do well and what people are looking for. When we're talking to people, and this is something your receptionist can do, the technicians can do while they're waiting for the doctor to show up an appointment. We talk to the customers. Why'd you choose us? What do you like about us? Is there any time that we let you down? These are those conversations where people can share their stories and you can understand what they're looking for, their pain points. And we ask several customers, not just one. We want to get a wide breadth of information. So now it leads us to what is a brand? And I like asking that question because a lot of people say, well, they mention a logo or it's the Nike swoosh or what have you. And those are logos, but really what a brand is it's the expectation a person has when they interact with your company, to hear your company name, see your logo, see an ad. It's almost like there's an emotional response people will have going, XYZ practice. Yes, when I go there, they love my pet. Or it could be, oh yeah, XYZ practice. Yeah, oof, it really smells a lot like dog urine there. I don't think they clean their practice really well. So these are two opposite things. And the one, maybe the stinky practice still does great medicine. The doctors have great diagnostics, but what people remember is that it's an old building and maybe they don't, the smell retains itself a little bit, as opposed to the, oh my God, I love that practice. They take such good care of me. I've been going to them for years. I think everybody should go to them. So again, here's some, some examples of, 4 very well-known brands throughout the world, and all of us have some reactions to them. And, whether you're a Starbucks user or not, you're gonna have 2 different kinds of emotions, whether you're an Apple user or not, whether you love Amazon or Mercedes. We all have a feeling and expectation when we see the logo and interact with any of these brands. So what we really want in a brand is that we want it to be unique. We want people to recognize that your place is different from others, and that's why they want to go to you, because you offer more of what they value. And a characteristic is that we also need to have a brand that has a lot of prevalence. It's out there. So those are like you have a very distinctive logo. When people are flipping through Google or going through different websites, your logo sticks out, your colors, your taglines, the way you do things is very consistent, and people get it and understand that that's your business. And so with that, we have our brand promise, and that's the way we want our customers to perceive us within a given competitive set. And it's really saying to our audience, this is what makes us special. This is why, people who value this should come to us. And so, everybody in your organization understands and delivers on that brand promise. And so this is where marketing is not just doing a great Facebook post or understanding that people want services like maybe chiropractic or acupuncture, but it's also training of the staff. So this, you know, if you're a practice that really emphasizes great customer service, you want your staff to be really on it and be part of that. Because every point of contact with our customers should reflect that promise. That whole customer journey I was talking about, from the time they go to consideration to become their ambassador, everything that you do in those steps fulfills that brand promise. So, you know, ask yourself, what is your brand's, what is your brand promise? What is your main competitor's brand promise? And so here's, you know, two logos that I took off the web of a town nearby, and I don't really recognize the names of them. But, you know, both of them, one's dedicated to caring for animals, taking good care of your friends. Not really a different brand promise, not really different from each other. And so this is where developing your brand and that brand promise is a big of a deep dive. Because it's just saying, hey, we care about animals is not enough. There's got to be more to it than that. And then we have a brand positioning, which is a phrase we use internally to help ourselves internally understand the benefits that we're offering our target clients. It states how we're different from our competitors. It's not necessarily a tagline or a slogan, but yet you could derive that from your positioning statement. And so you can imagine that between Mercedes and Hyundai, both really different cars, different target audiences, they will both have a different positioning statement. And I think we as practices, we're not just vet practices, we're all a little bit different. We need to have our own positioning statement that emphasizes what makes us special and benefits our customers distinctively from competitors in the area. So when we look at differentiating ourselves, there's a couple of ways of looking at it. There's those that are aligned by taste, you know, the Pepsi versus Coke, McDonald's versus Burger King. A lot of those ones, it's just, well, that's who, you know, I'm familiar with. You know, it's little nuanced differences, and maybe why they like your practice more than the other is because of its location, you know, or you know, you're open late, and there's nothing really hugely different between you and the others. Whereas vertical differentiation, we can have a lot more impact there, and that's focusing on people's willingness to pay for quality. So that's where you have that Mercedes or BMW versus Hyundai, a Four Seasons hotel versus a Hilton or a Marriott. And so I said, you know, when you're looking at your own brand position, look at you on that horizontal, how, you know, your similarities based just because you're vets and you're available versus your vertical, and how different you offer quality, how different is the customer experience, how different are the breadth of services that you offer and how great you can offer them. So here's a position statement, and this is just a template one, and you know how we want our customers to think of the brands in our minds. So among target audience, our clinic is the brand of choice, preference, what have you, and we highlight the emotional benefit promise, the point of difference, because, and that reason to believe, the reason why they're coming to you. So I made up one. So among cat owners, XYZ Vet Practice is the brand of preference that gives cat owners the confidence that their cats are in great hands, because the vets at XYZ Vet Practice know how special cats are and have created a stress-free environment for all cats. So that last part is that reason to believe, that promise that when you come to us, it's going to be stress-free. And if you really value your client, your cats, you know, not being stressed out by going to the vet, this is going to be really, really intriguing and appetizing for you. So before I switch over to Alyssa, I just wanted to make sure we're key when we have our marketing goals. And there are two types of main goals we can have, and that is our brand awareness, letting people just know about ourselves, which is really key right now during this COVID-19 crisis. But a great opportunity in the absence of other people advertising, you can go out there and raise brand awareness. Maybe people aren't wanting to change their vet practice right now, but if they don't know about you, they'll never even think about considering you. So now in this vacuum, this is the time for you to be talking about your brand, what you're all about, your position, And that's ongoing, and the return could be next year, the year after. It's one of those things where you ask people, how'd you hear about us? And they say word of mouth or online. That's your brand promise that, finally somebody said, you know what, this lines up with what I value, or looks like they're going to eliminate these pain points that I have. I'm going to go to them. As opposed to our specific promotions. February is dental month, working about, the time of year for heartworm. Anything that's seasonal that you maybe want to have specific promotions, or talk about any kind of, any kind of medications, what have you, or, promotions for health plans or annual packages. Those are two different things that have more of immediate things. So we're always trying to balance raising a brand awareness and getting people to shop and buy now. And with that, I am going to pass myself over to Alyssa, and she'll talk a little bit about the first steps in marketing. Thank you.
So right now, a lot of veterinary practices want to put marketing on the back burner, and today I'm going to be talking about why that might not be a good idea. So it's important to remember that no message is also a message. So if you're not doing any marketing and not communicating with your key audience and your clients at this time, there might be a veterinary practice that is, and you really have to think about how this is impacting your relationship with your clients. If they're not hearing from you, then who are they hearing from? So this is just something to really remember as I go on throughout why you should be marketing right now during COVID-19. So why is it important to market now? I'm going to be talking about three main points. One, it's important to support and care for your clients. Through that, you're developing stronger relationships with those current clients. And lastly, I'm going to be talking about brand awareness and recognition. So first off, supporting and caring for your clients. I think everyone understands that it's a really uncertain time for everyone, but we can't just send out the typical, we're all going through this together. That's great, but you also need to let your clients know how your practice has adjusted. So what new policies and procedures are you putting in place, and how can you help them? This message should be positive and informative with all the negative information that is out there right now. So kind of leading off that, when you're supporting and caring for your clients, you're developing a stronger relationship with those current clients. During this time, you can do more things to develop a stronger relationship than what you already have. So things that you can do to do this is share more about your practice, who you are, and why you do what you do, things you're passionate about, or maybe more knowledge that you could send out to your clients. By doing all these things, you're gaining more open and transparent communication, trust, and a stronger connection, because when you open up to your clients, they probably feel like they can open up more to you, but also understand you better, and maybe have a reason to choose your veterinary practice over another one, which I'll be talking about a bit later. So I'm just going to be going through the customer journey, which Mike already kind of touched on, but just kind of how this relates through marketing and things that you can do. So it's kind of a process of having your public, a prospect, a customer, and a loyal customer. So this is just an example here on the right side of the screen with fish, and this would be your public audience. So 12 out of 12 fish are your public audience. So right now they may not be aware of any identified need. They're likely not searching actively, but it may include some who are, and they have no prior relationship with your vet practice at this time. The next one I'm going to be talking about is a prospect. So this would be approximately maybe 5 out of the 12 fish. So they usually have identified a need that you can meet, which makes them a prospect. So they probably need a vet service, but they haven't taken action, and they're probably in one of 3 stages. So they're searching for more information, they're evaluating all the alternatives, and maybe by the end, they're ready to make a decision on what vet practice they want to go with. Next would be your average customer. This is probably 3 out of the 12 fish. So they've moved beyond being aware in any motivation, but they've had at least one reasonable exchange with you at least once. They're a bit more likely to tell you about themselves, but it more likely requires an incentive or repeated efforts. And next is a loyal customer, which isn't always easy to get, but is very rewarding. So this is probably about one out of the 12 fish that we started with. And this is a customer that you've had multiple transactions with. They refer others and act as a brand ambassador for your vet practice. They show that brand love, so they're always talking, referring you, talking about how great the vet practice is. Their mind is made up and they're more open to talk about you. So, kind of what I want to talk about is maybe right now this time isn't to attract a new customer, but it's changing that average customer that you have, strengthening that relationship to turn them into a loyal customer. And what that does to you is that loyal customer is a brand advocate. They're going to be talking to their friends, their family, anybody kind of in their circle and saying, I really recommend this practice because of this, this, and this. And that is why it's really important that you really work to develop those relationships, especially now when you have probably more time during COVID-19. And lastly, I'm going to be talking a bit more about brand awareness and recognition. So, what would make someone choose your veterinary practice over another practice? And more importantly, how do you develop your brand? So, Mike talked a lot about what is a brand, but to kind of get started, some questions that you can ask yourself is what is your mission or your purpose statement? Why are you kind of doing what you're doing? What makes you unique? And what are your values? So, really great example is obviously a vet practice is there to help care for your animals, but more importantly, maybe a mission or a purpose statement would be we are here to give the customer ease of mind that their pet is in the right care. So it's a bit different of shifting that statement. And that kind of goes into your brand value. So when you're building your brand around your core values, it allows you to grow a business that you can be proud and passionate about. But it also allows you to reach your consumers in a way that's a bit different. By doing this, your consumers understand your brand better. They make those stronger connections and they have a reason to pick you over a competitor. So, by developing such a strong brand and having those strong values, somebody is much more likely to pick your practice because they agree with your purpose statement. They really like what you're doing. They say, I chose this vet practice because I really agree with what they stand for and what they support. I think any of these vet practices have great vets, but I personally choose this one because maybe they relate, maybe they connect more. And kind of having that brand value, brand purpose, personality really changes how somebody might just pick your practice over someone else's. So when you're doing all of these kind of things, working on that brand development, working on really strengthening those relationships, it allows you to have a stronger brand awareness and recognition. You're remaining relevant during a difficult time, and you're staying on top of consumers' minds. So when things do go back to normal, maybe you will be the vet practice that's on their mind compared to the one that did not market or communicate to their clients at that time. So if there's any questions, anybody can ask them now. Thank you.